Hi, Dr. Robert Selig, and today I want to wish you a happy holiday season, and the most important thing in the new year is health. Health is truly the greatest wealth. And the culprit behind our chronic health conditions in this country, we've got to look at blood sugar. And today I want to discuss the blood sugar committee and all the players, especially when we're talking about functional medicine. I like to call it nutritional medicine, because when we come in with the right nutrients, we can make the blood sugar committee work harmoniously together so we can regulate our blood sugar. First of all, when we're talking about blood sugar, we should first check it. 1 month, check your blood sugar. Check it 4 times a day. Check your fasting blood sugar upon awakening. Then you're going to check it 2 hours after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if we keep our blood sugar between that 75 and 100, that healthy range, you live to 100. So we want to be able to first analyze where is our blood sugar. So we eat lunch and then we check it 2 hours later, and we see 2 hours after we ate, our blood sugar's 150, 160. If we don't get that under 100, that is glycation, that is inflammation, that is your back pain, that is your mood swings, that is your depression, that is all the problems that you may manifest with. Everyone will be unique and different. However, got to understand that that blood sugar causes inflammation. That blood sugar makes your blood thick. We call that blood viscosity. When that blood becomes thick and sticky, you're not going to be healthy. And so it's so important to measure our blood sugar. So now we want to look at it kind of from a nutritional point of view. We want to start to understand, boy, let's fix our blood sugar, because that's one thing we do have control over. And understanding how powerful our diets are and what we're eating, what we're consuming, and what nutrients we're supplementing with. So supplements are just that. They're supplementing our diets because the soils today are deficient. The carrot you ate 100 years ago is not the carrot you're going to eat today. It's going to be deficient and void of the major and macro and micro minerals. So we need to understand the supplements. Now, to supplement, I need a blueprint. I need to know what's going on with your biochemistry. I need to know where the minerals are. And so we use hair tissue mineral analysis to really give me a blueprint into your biochemistry, your mineral matrix, so I can assess a nutritional plan intelligently based on your biochemical individuality. So let's look at some of the players on what we need to regulate blood sugar. Now, the first place I want to start with is the liver, because we think if we eat food and that food is broken down through digestion and then we get blood sugar. Most of the blood sugar is going to be stored as glycogen in the liver, because we're not eating all the time. We're sleeping, we're fasting, we go through many periods, hours upon hours where we're not eating. We're really only eating 4 or 5 times in the course of a day. So most of that blood sugar is dependent upon the liver. So the liver stores glucose as glycogen. Glycogen is just, glucose molecules, long glucose molecules that are bound together by the mineral potassium. Potassium is the glue that keeps the glycogen together. Now, the problem is, most of us have very low levels of potassium that goes under the medical radar because we don't assess potassium accurately. We do a blood test and the doctor says, oh, your blood chemistry, electrolytes, they're all within normal limits. Now remember, potassium is an intracellular ion, meaning it belongs in the cell, not in the blood. So 98% of the potassium should be inside the cell, as well as magnesium and zinc. But for this argument, we're talking about potassium. 98% of it should be in the cell, 2% of it should be in the blood. So when they take your blood, they're looking at that 2%. I want to know what's going on with that 98%, because biochemistry happens in the cells, not the blood. The blood is what we call a transport medium. It's moving the goodies. It's moving the vitamins, the minerals, the hormones, the neurotransmitters from point A to point B, and it's taking the toxins from point A to point B. So blood is a transport medium. Blood does tell us very important things, especially when it comes to anemias and leukemias. So we do get information from blood, but we don't get the big picture of the biochemistry that happens in the cells. So we got to have the right tools and tests to assess biochemistry, and what we're going to be talking about is one of the tools that I love to run, which is a foundational part of my program, is the hair tissue mineral analysis, so I can use functional medicine to address the nutritional deficiencies and toxicities. So we talked about we need that potassium to make that glycogen. If you have low potassium, and I see low potassium almost across the board, I would say 80% of the adult Americans have low sodium, low potassium. We call that slow oxidation, we call that premature aging, we call that all the precursor to all our degenerative diseases. So sodium and potassium. Guyton's textbook of medical physiology has chapters just on sodium and potassium. We know how important that sodium-potassium pump really is. And then we look at the individual players of how sodium and potassium play out in regulating our blood sugar. And so the liver is where we store it. Now, to release the glycogen, first your adrenals. The adrenals have to send a signal via the hormone cortisol to the liver to say, hey, blood sugar is low. We need to get some blood sugar released into the blood. So the adrenals send the signal, then the signal go to the liver, and then the liver is going to release the glycogen. However, if we have a deficiency in magnesium, zinc, and B6, we're not going to be releasing the glycogen as efficiently when we're deficient in these nutrient minerals. So we got to make sure that we can assess these nutrient minerals. And again, the hair tissue mineral analysis is just one of those tools that gives me insight, when properly interpreted, how to look at the status of the mineral matrix in our body. So we need the adrenals to send the signal via the hormone cortisol to the liver to release the glycogen. Then the glycogen will release the blood glucose into the bloodstream. Then the bloodstream will take that sugar to the brain, to the muscle, to wherever it needs to go. And that will be to every basic cell in your body. And so understanding that now that once it's in the blood, once the glucose is in the blood, it has to get in the cell. And here's where we need to understand the importance of insulin and glucose. So the other player in this, we're going to look at the pancreas. The pancreas makes insulin. It also makes other hormones and digestive juices. So the pancreas is one of those organs that is both an endocrine gland, which is hormonal, and it's also an exocrine gland, making our pancreatic enzymes and things of that nature. So the pancreas becomes a huge player because we're looking at it from the insulin point of view. So insulin is what is going to help get the nutrient glucose into the cell. So insulin is very important, but when we start to accumulate high insulin levels, that high insulin is going to make the metabolism very sluggish and slow and snail-like. And you look at anyone on insulin medications, you see just that, a very sluggish metabolism. So insulin helps get that blood sugar into the cell where it belongs. Now, to make insulin. Insulin is made up of 51 amino acids, 17 different amino acids. So what's an amino acid? We eat protein, we eat chicken, cows, lamb, beans, lentils, whatever we eat to get the proteins. Those proteins have to be broken down via stomach acid. Stomach acid breaks the proteins down to the amino acids. Then the amino acids are the building blocks. one of the building blocks we're looking at is making insulin. So to make insulin, we need the stomach acid. Now again, how do I know if you have low stomach acid? If you have low sodium, low potassium, I guarantee you're not making sufficient stomach acid. And again, that's about 80% of our adult population. So the importance of stomach acid, and that becomes a major nutrient in almost all my patients. I have them on some form of betaine HCl with a potassium buffer. Very important. It's one of the fundamentals in nutritional medicine. So the pancreas. You also need, besides those 17 amino acids, you need zinc, sulfur, and manganese. That little mineral manganese, that amazing zinc and sulfur is what, plus the 17 amino acids, make your insulin. So that insulin now is stored in the pancreas. When there's high blood sugar, there's going to be a cell-mediated nerve signal to the pancreas, and that's going to release calcium. And the calcium is going to stimulate the pancreas to release the insulin, and magnesium is the valve that controls the flow of insulin out of the pancreas. So again, if we have calcium, magnesium, if we look at those ratios of those minerals, that's the blood sugar ratio, because calcium is the impetus, the stimuli that releases the insulin from the islets of the pancreas, and magnesium is the valve that controls the flow. And so when we start to see a high calcium magnesium ratio, when it goes above a 10-to-1 ratio, we're getting into insulin resistance. We're getting into pre-diabetes. Once that ratio goes above a 13-to-1, now we're talking about diabetes. So this will be picked up way before the hemoglobin A1C picks it up, or a fasting insulin picks it up, or a fasting glucose picks it up. The hair tissue gives us a window into your biochemistry so we can intelligently assess the nutrient minerals and how they are responsible for regulating the glucose committee, the blood sugar. So the other part of the program is how we get this blood sugar inside the cell. So here's the house. The house has the door. It's got a front door and a back door. First, we want to do the first option of get that blood sugar inside the front door. So we got to make sure that the insulin becomes sensitive to the cell membrane. So most people are insulin resistant. The nutrients B3, chromium, and vanadium sensitize the cell membrane so that insulin can shuttle the glucose inside the cell. It can open up the sugar door, and once the sugar door opens up, then that sugar can get in to do its job of making ATP or making fatty acids or things of that nature. There's also the back door. The back door is dependent upon the amino acid taurine, the mineral selenium, and vitamin E and vitamin C. These are the organs that really regulate blood sugar. It's the cell membrane. Gotta have integrity on the cell membrane. So we know that we need that niacin, aka vitamin B3. We need the actual chromium and vanadium in the right balance. So that's what sensitizes the cell membrane. But we need integrity on the cell membrane, and that's made up of phosphatidylcholine, DHA. So we got to come in with the right goodies to make sure that we have the nutrients to sensitize insulin and to give us integrity on the cell membrane so it can actually get inside the cell. Remember, biochemistry doesn't happen in the blood, it happens in the cells. And so we start to see this big picture and how we're regulating our blood sugar. We looked at the adrenals, we looked at the liver, we looked at the pancreas. We also got to look at the thyroid hormone, because the thyroid is what when that sugar gets in inside the cell and into the cell nucleus, it's the thyroid hormone that actually ignites the sugar. To actually burn the sugar, you need thyroid hormone. And so when we have high insulin, because we have too much blood sugar that can't get into the cell, that high insulin is antagonistic to thyroid hormone. And then we start to see the thyroid hormone coming down, and that is going to pave the way to the obesity, the weight gain, the loss of hair, the loss of eyebrows, the foggy thinking, brain fog, predispose us to infections, to low energy, to losing our motivation, and all the signs and symptoms of what hypothyroidism is about. But we got to connect it to this blood sugar. This is why if we have to fix one thing, we fix the blood sugar, because it connects to the whole organ systems of our body. So thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful, and have a good day. There.
That's some time right there.
I got to turn this off.